The thing about tech, whether we're talking about tablets, phones, computers, or even the peripherals for them, is that there are always choices. And sometimes there's too many of them. And nowadays, some of us even have to choose what streaming device we want to use with our brand new TV immediately after purchasing it. Choices upon choices upon choices. Hopefully today I can help y'all make a choice when it comes to your streaming device. Should you go with a Chromecast? Maybe a Roku? I don't know. Maybe you're a fan of firesticks. Or maybe you've never had any of them. And if that's the case, then it can be a really hard decision to make to choose which one is right for you. Today we'll go over 3 of them and try to find out what the differences are. Hey guys, my name is Grayson and this is Tech with me. Let's start with Roku. For me, this was the first streaming device I ever had. When I bought mine almost 6 years ago now, they were probably the biggest streaming device brand around. Now, I don't know that they still are. I feel like it's probably a pretty tight race between them and firesticks. That being said, as far as these 3 brands go, I feel that Roku probably has the most accessible, easy to use, and easy to learn interface out of all of them. Roku just makes it easy. They put your apps front and center, 3 across, and as far down as it takes. What do you want to watch? Netflix? Hulu? YouTube? It doesn't matter. Just choose what you want to do, scroll over to it, select it, and you're streaming. They don't try to fill your screen with a ton of ads. As a matter of fact, the only ads that I ever remember seeing are on the screensaver that pops up when you leave your device doing nothing for a long period of time. And to be fair, I don't hate this implementation. It's unobtrusive. I don't even notice them. I come back to my Roku, I hit OK, and I start streaming again. They just don't get in the way. I also feel that Roku has the most access to different apps as well. If you're just trying to watch the more popular channels like Netflix, Hulu, Prime Video, or YouTube, then honestly, any of these streaming devices are gonna have what you want. But for those of you who are trying to watch more niche channels, the Roku stick is going to have access to those more often than not when compared to the Chromecast or the Fire Stick. Next we have the Chromecast. I used to hate these devices, but that was back before they integrated Google TV into the device itself. Back then, I saw it as less usable than the other devices due to you having to cast directly from your phone, your tablet, or even your computer if you wanted to use it. Sure, it definitely had its uses, but having the apps built directly in like the Roku stick did was just more useful to me back then. But then they released Android TV, which evolved into Google TV, and then they started building it into the Chromecast, which fixed every issue I ever had about it. Having an operating system that allowed it to have the apps downloaded directly into it made this usable by itself. It wasn't reliant on any other devices to function. Now I love the Chromecast, and honestly, Google TV is one of my favorite operating systems out there. I love it. Google TV just gives you a ton of options. Not only does it have access to 95% of the apps that you'd probably want, it still has the built-in casting function. Having the easy-to-use casting feature plus the apps built in is great because it gives you the ability to do what you want, when you want it to, and just adds to the usability. It gives you a ton of options on how you want to watch your content, and it just works well. Now, as far as the interface goes, it can be a little bit harder to use when compared to something like the Roku. But the home screen is definitely a little bit more cluttered. I wouldn't call it unorganized, but there's definitely a lot more going on that you would have to pay attention to or learn what each of those things are. At the very top, it has tabs for movies and TV shows. These will either take you to the streaming app for them or take you to their page on the Play Store where you can rent or purchase them. It also has its own library that shows content that you've purchased or are currently renting. I love that on the homepage it shows you your favorite apps, but it also shows you movies and TV shows that maybe you left off in the middle of viewing, and if you select them and click on them, it'll take you back to that streaming app and start the movie where you left off. And it's also great at making recommendations on what you should watch next. Google gathers data on what shows you've watched, what you've binged, and what you never finished, and puts that all together to make recommendations based on what you and other similar viewers have liked, so that you can find new shows to watch and binge and enjoy, and it really just makes finding content to watch easier to do. Now, some people might hate this, and I get it, but I think it makes finding new content that I might not have found otherwise easy and simple to do. I really enjoy it. Last, but certainly not least, we have Amazon's own streaming device, the Amazon Fire Stick. But what's the difference between it and the Roku, you might ask? Well, for one, it's a little bit more blocky in design compared to the more rounded off Roku stick. And rather than using a purple color design like Roku does, it uses red and orange because fire. Okay, but all jokes aside, there's honestly not a huge difference between any of these streaming devices besides the design of the operating system and the interface and personal preference. I always like to describe it to people like this. The difference between a Fire Stick and a Roku is the same as the difference between a Hyundai Elantra and a Honda Civic. They're two different brands doing a very similar thing. To all my car people out there, I hope that comparison's as accurate as I feel it is. I'm really not a car guy, so I have no idea. Here's the deal. In looks and feel, I feel like the Fire Stick looks a lot like and operates a lot like a Chromecast does, at least on the home screen. It is different, there are differences, but it is close. That being said, I also don't feel like this is as easy to operate as the Roku is, for the same reasons I didn't feel like the Chromecast was. There's just more going on. The Fire Stick is also definitely an Amazon product, and it will push Amazon services first. Whether that means the Prime Video app, Prime Originals, or even just advertisements in general. That being said, it does have direct compatibility with Alexa, and most, if not all models have Alexa built directly into the remote, which is kinda nice. If you're a huge user of Amazon services, or even just a really big fan of Alexa products and Amazon products, then the Fire Stick is probably the one for you. They're going to integrate really, really well, and you'll probably love it. But that's it for this one, guys. Which streaming device do y'all use at home, and do you recommend it? Let me know why down in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you guys very, very kindly for watching. My name's Grayson, and this has been Tech with me.